Welcome to our in-depth analysis of the current political landscape and the upcoming presidential election. Today, we'll be diving into the dramatic shift that has occurred since Joe Biden's unexpected withdrawal from the presidential race, catapulting Kamala Harris into the position of presumptive Democratic nominee. This seismic change has sent ripples through the polling data, particularly in crucial battleground states, reshaping the contours of the upcoming election. Join us as we explore the latest polling figures, dissect the challenges and opportunities facing both Harris and her Republican opponent, Donald Trump, and examine the broader implications for the future of American politics. Joe Biden's sudden exit from the race has undoubtedly transformed the political landscape. Kamala Harris, now the presumptive Democratic nominee, faces a monumental task. The latest polling data highlights significant shifts, especially in battleground states that will be pivotal in deciding the election's outcome. Let's delve into the specifics, starting with the states where Donald Trump has consolidated his support. These traditionally Republican states, including Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, North and South Dakota, and many more, collectively contribute a robust 219 electoral votes to Trump's tally. But what does this mean for Harris and the Democratic campaign? Harris is expected to secure a base of states that traditionally lean Democratic, such as Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, Colorado, and several others, providing her with 190 electoral votes. This sets a nearly balanced starting point against Trump. However, the battleground states will be the real deciders. Let's move to Georgia, a state that has become increasingly competitive in recent elections. Trump has established a significant 5-point lead over Harris. This margin, consistent across multiple polls, suggests a solidifying Republican base in a state that Biden narrowly clinched in 2020. The demographic shifts that previously favored Democrats in Georgia appear to be stalling, if not reversing, presenting a complex challenge for the Harris campaign. Georgia's changing demographics, particularly the influx of younger, more diverse voters in urban areas like Atlanta, have been a boon for Democrats. However, the recent trends suggest that Republicans are successfully mobilizing their base in rural and suburban areas, countering these gains. Moving north to North Carolina, another key battleground, Trump maintains a 4-point advantage. This lead, while slightly narrower than in Georgia, has remained stable, indicating a firm Republican foothold. Harris will need to energize the Democratic base in urban centers like Charlotte and Raleigh-Durham while appealing to moderate voters in the suburbs. Perhaps the most surprising development comes from Virginia. A state that has trended Democratic in recent presidential elections now shows Trump with a 4-point lead. This stunning reversal moves Virginia from its recent status as a Democratic stronghold to lean Republican territory. Harris faces the daunting task of rebuilding the Democratic coalition in Virginia, focusing on the vote-rich suburbs of Northern Virginia. In Pennsylvania, a perennial swing state with 19 coveted electoral votes, Trump has established a 4-point lead. This advantage is particularly concerning for the Harris campaign, given Pennsylvania's status as a must-win for both parties. Trump's message appears to be resonating in both the industrial, western part of the state and the more conservative central region. Harris will need to drive up turnout in Philadelphia and its suburbs to have a chance at flipping the state back to the Democratic column. Michigan, another critical Midwest battleground, shows Trump with a solid 5-point lead. This margin in a state that Biden won in 2020 reflects a significant shift in voter sentiment. Trump's message on economic issues and trade seems to be gaining traction among Michigan's blue-collar voters. Harris faces the challenge of reigniting enthusiasm among the Democratic base, particularly in Detroit and its suburbs. While recent polling data for Wisconsin is lacking, the state's previous trends and the current political climate suggest a Republican tilt. Given Trump's performance in neighboring states and Wisconsin's razor-thin margins in recent elections, it's reasonable to categorize it as tilting slightly towards the Republican camp. Minnesota presents a more optimistic picture for the Harris campaign, albeit with caveats. While recent polling is sparse, historical trends and the current political landscape suggest a slight Democratic advantage. However, the margin appears to be narrowing, reflecting the broader competitiveness of the upper Midwest. Minnesota's urban centers are strongholds for Democrats, but the rural areas have been swinging more towards Republicans. Harris will need to maintain high turnout in the Twin Cities while also appealing to conservative voters in rural Minnesota. New Mexico, traditionally a Democratic-leaning state, lacks recent polling data but is expected to remain in the Democratic column. However, the state's unique cultural and economic landscape means Harris cannot take it for granted. She needs to energize the state's significant Hispanic population and maintain strong support in urban centers like Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Arizona, once a reliable Republican stronghold, has become increasingly competitive in recent elections. However, current polling shows Trump with a substantial 6-point lead, placing the Grand Canyon state firmly in the likely Republican category. This margin suggests that the demographic shifts that favored Democrats in 2020 may be losing steam, or that Trump's message on issues like border security and the economy is resonating with Arizona voters. Nevada, another western state that has trended Democratic in recent presidential elections, now shows a surprising 10-point lead for Trump. This substantial margin moves Nevada into the likely Republican column, representing a significant shift from its recent voting history. Harris will need to mount a vigorous campaign to reinvigorate the Democratic coalition in Nevada, focusing on both the urban centers of Las Vegas and Reno and the state's diverse working-class communities. In New Hampshire, a small but crucial swing state, Trump holds a narrow 1-point lead. This slim margin places the Granite State in the tilt Republican category, reflecting its highly competitive nature. Harris will need to focus on the state's more liberal southern tier, including population centers like Manchester and Nashua, while Trump will aim to run up margins in the more conservative northern and western regions. Maine presents a nuanced picture with its unique system of allocating electoral votes by congressional district. The state at large and the 1st District are leaning and likely Democratic, respectively, providing a base of support for Harris. However, the competitive nature of Maine's 2nd District, which encompasses the more rural northern and eastern parts of the state, means that Trump could potentially pick up an electoral vote here. Nebraska's 2nd District, centered around Omaha, is expected to lean Democratic, offering a small but potentially crucial electoral vote for Harris. This district's tendency to favor Democrats in recent elections provides a bright spot for Harris in an otherwise challenging Midwest landscape. However, the competitive nature of Nebraska's other districts means that both campaigns will likely invest resources in the state. The current polling landscape paints a picture of significant challenges for the Harris campaign and growing momentum for Trump. The Republican candidate's strong leads in traditionally competitive states like Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona, coupled with surprising showings in former Democratic strongholds like Virginia and Nevada, suggest a potential realignment of the electoral map. Trump's consistent advantages in critical Midwest battlegrounds like Pennsylvania and Michigan further solidify his position as the frontrunner at this stage of the race. Harris, facing an uphill battle in several key states, will need to mount an aggressive and strategic campaign to close the gap. The erosion of Democratic support in states like Virginia and Michigan is particularly concerning and will require a focused effort to rebuild the coalition that